Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the findLast and findLastIndex methods. If you were around for our Boring JavaScript video on the find method, or even our Boring JavaScript video on the findIndex method, then you would know that each of them finds an element within an array that matches a certain criteria. The find returns the very first element, while the findIndex returns the index of the very first element. What do you think findLast and findLastIndex does? That's right, it returns the very last element within the array that matches a certain criteria. Find will return the element, while findLast will return the element, while findLastIndex will return the index of that element. You want to see how it works? Let's get started. I have an array here. This array has a bunch of different animals in it. We're going to be using this array to find out which is the last element that matches a certain criteria. So let's take a look at the findLast method. There it is. It's called onAnArray. And the idea here again is to find the very last element. So what you pass to the findLast method is a function, in this case I'm using an arrow function, that the result of this function is either going to be truthy or falsy. If it is truthy, JavaScript will remember that element as basically being the possible last element within the array, and it will continue to check every single element within the array. Once it gets up to the very final, at the end of the array, it's going to go back and find out, hey, what was the very last one that matched my criteria? If it's a certain particular element, it's going to return that element. And that's real simple. So for example, as it's going through here, in this case, let's take a look at it. I'm checking if animal type is equal to type. So I'm passing the array, within my animal finder method, I'm passing the animals array and the type. So all I'm checking is for if each animal is equal to type. So first time through, if I'm going to search for cat, for example, first time through, it's going to say that, oh, there's the cat. All right, this is a possibility. It's going to keep on going. It's going to then find this cat. It's going to mark that as the possibility as being the last one because it doesn't know whether it's the last one yet or not. Then it's going to find that one at 13, same thing there. This one at 16, same thing there. This one at 19, same thing there. That's the end of the array. So now it knows that this is going to be the very last element that matches the criteria. In this case, animal.type equals type. So therefore, that's really all there is to it. Your function is to return a truthy or a falsy value to be able to tell JavaScript that, hey, this is a possibility of this element might be our very last element. So what are the arguments that JavaScript passes to our function? Well, there's actually three of them. In fact, let's just type this out here. We'll call that one animal array. What JavaScript will pass to you within your function are three arguments. The first argument is going to be the actual element that it's looking at. JavaScript is going to go through each and every single one of these elements, and it's going to pass to you each element one at a time. And that first argument is going to be the element. So first time through, that's going to be the animal. Second time through, that's going to be the animal. Third time through, that's going to be animal, and so on and so forth. It's also going to pass to you the index number, and this happens to be the index number within the array that this element is associated with. So first time through is 0, second time is 1, third time is 2. And the last one is the array that it's actually parsing itself. Now, all I really care about is the animal itself. I don't care about the index, or I don't care about the array because I already know what the array is. So that's why those two were not initially there. So I have a function here that just takes one argument. It's going to take each animal argument. It's going to check that the animal type is equal to type. And that's it. That's all there is. And I will return whatever it finds. And what it's going to find there is going to be, what I'm going to return here first of all is I'm going to return the type and then the critter. And the critter in this case is going to be the element that is found as the very last element within the array. So here my test. I've got it. Last cat, I'm going to do an animal finder on animals where the type is cat. My last dog is going to be animals where the type is dog. And my last antelope is going to be animals with the type of antelope. So what's going to happen? Well, we do cat. We've already done that one. So we know cat is going to be Tom. What's the last dog? Well, we'll just go from the bottom here. There's the last dog. So dog should be Rover. And our last antelope should be no antelope. Ooh. Well, so now we're going to be able to find out what happens to find last if there are no elements that match our criteria. So it'll be interesting to find out here. So then I'm just doing a quick little for each loop that find out if there is a critter that is returned, then I get the name of the critter and type it out. Otherwise, I say it's not on the list, which means that critter is going to return undefined or null, or basically a falsy value if it cannot find that element. So this should be interesting. So you want to see how it works? Of course you do. Let's flip over to Node. Let's type in node find, and boom, crash. Cannot find module. All right, that's because I can't type. Let's type in node find last. There we go. My last cat name is Tom. Yep, we knew that. My last dog in the list is Rover. We knew that. And it seems like I do not have an antelope on my list. So we know that critter came out to be null. So there you have it. That's all there is to the find last method. What about find last index? Let's take a quick look at that. And through the magic of television, we now have the find last index method. It takes the exact same type of argument, a function in which our function's responsibility is to return a truthy or a falsy value. In this case, so I'm returning the exact same thing I looked for in my find index. But what find last index is going to return to us is not the element itself, but it's going to return to us the index number within the element. So what we should expect here is that's going to be index number 0. Our cat is going to be index number 17. Our dog is going to be index number 12. And our antelope is going to be -1, I would guess, in this particular case, or actually null, since it's going to return saying, hey, I can't find anything. So all this code is exactly the same. The only difference here is that we're now getting type and critter index from the animal, but we then now need to find out which critter it is based upon the critter index. And that's it. It should work like a champ from that point on. You want to see how it works? Let's see what happens. Let's go over to Node. Clear the screen off. Go to node find last. Got the exact same thing. Tom, Rover, and the antelope is not on the list. So that's really it. That's all there is to find last and find last index. But wait, there's more. Here's one of the problems. I guarantee you a lot of you out there who are going to run this program is going to say it can't find last or find last index. And there's a reason for that. Both of those are extremely recent additions to both browsers and to Node. I'm running Node here. In fact, Node version 18. If you have Node version less than 18, find last and find last index is not there. In fact, my IDE, if you happen to notice, it's got a little squiggly line underneath it. According to my IDE here, it's saying, hey, there is no such thing as find last index on arrays. It hasn't even updated itself yet to be able to know that it has that find last index is now supported. So if your browser version is, I believe it's 97, yeah, but it's actually version 97 for Chrome. It's Opera of 83, Firefox of 104. Anything less than that, it's not going to work. Anything less than Node 18, it is not going to work. So how do you get a find last and find last index working when your browser or your Node won't support it? I'll show you that next. So here I have my array. I'm now going to be using the find method to find the very last animal. I'm getting my last cat, my last dog, my last antelope, and I'm listing them out. So Mike, you're saying, how can you use the find method to find the very last one? It doesn't make any sense. Find's going to find the very first element. Well, let's add one more piece of code in here. Boom! There we go. I'm using the reverse method to reverse the elements of the array. The reverse method basically says, okay, flip everything completely over. So while before this was the very last element, that is now the very first element, where this was the very first element, that is now the very last element. So everything's completely flipped around. And now that everything's flipped around, I could use the find method to be able to find the element in the array that I want. And that's it. Works like a champ. Let's flip over to Node. Type in node filter. My last cat on the list is Tom. My one's Rover. And I don't have an antelope on my list. Hey, it's the exact same thing as we had before. So that's a really great polyfill you can use to do the findLast method if your findLast is not supported in the Node or browser that you're using. I do want to talk about this just a little bit here. There's a reason I did this just before I called the reverse. And the reason is that reverse does what they call an in-place reverse. It physically changes the array itself. So if I said array.reverse, I don't have to say array equals array.reverse. All I have to do is say array.reverse, and it completely reverses that array in place. So if I just call it on animals like this, then animals itself would get reversed, and that can mess up the rest of my program anywhere else, because I don't want to mess up the original animals database. Think of this as a database. You don't want to sit there and mess up the original database, just be able to get the last animal on the list there. So I'm using the spread operator. And that's the 3 dots. Let me highlight that. I'm using the spread operator to take every single element within the array and spread it out as if they were arguments. You kind of think when you're passing arguments over into functions, you would say argument 1, comma, argument 2, comma, argument 3. Basically, the spread syntax will take each element in the array and pass that as like a commonly delimited arguments. So then I'm just then encapsulating that within an array syntax, which is the same thing as saying, arg1 or animal 0, comma, animal 1, comma, animal 2, and so on and so forth. It's basically doing the exact same thing. So this makes a shallow copy of the array that I pass in this case the animals array, and so I'm reversing the shallow copy. I'm not reversing the animals themselves. So I don't ever touch the original database. The original animals database is still intact. I'm working on this temporary database that is created with this spread syntax inside the array elements. So that's it. It's real simple here. So that's a way that you can use the find method to be able to find the last element within the array. And that's all there is to the findLast and findLastIndex methods. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope I didn't bore you to death. Please make sure you click on the like button below and subscribe to this channel for more boring JavaScript videos. Also, you can go to www.boringjavascript.com to see everything we've produced. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.